I found out my fiancé cheated 6 weeks before our wedding. Then his mother called and said, send the ring back today. But when I had it appraised, the jeweler went quiet. This isn't an heirloom, she said. So I sent one text that made his whole family panic. The first thing his mother asked for was not an apology. It was not, are you okay? It was not, I'm sorry my son destroyed your life right before the wedding. It was the ring. I was sitting on the floor of my sister's townhouse in San Antonio, with my phone buzzing beside me, and my wedding binder was on the floor, stuffed with invoices, guest lists, and notes I had written when I still believed I was planning the happiest day of my life. When I saw his mother's name on my screen, I almost ignored it. I answered. Before I could say much, she took this shaky breath and said, Sarah, sweetheart, I know emotions are high right now, but we need to talk about the ring. Not the cheating. Not the humiliation of telling people the wedding was canceled. The ring. I looked down at my hand. My fingers still had the faint mark from where the band had been. I said, I'm not talking about that right now. Her voice stayed soft, but something underneath it turned hard. Unfortunately, the ring is a family heirloom. Since the marriage is no longer happening, it needs to come home. Come home. Like I stole it. I said, your son cheated on me for months. She sighed, like I was missing the point. I'm not defending what Michael did. Hearing his name made my stomach twist. She went on, but the ring belonged to his great-grandmother. It has sentimental value. You can't understand what it means to this family. That almost made me laugh. Not because anything was funny, but because she said something so cruel in such a gentle voice. I couldn't understand family value. I was the one who had spent months trying to join their family. I said, the ring was part of the engagement. Michael destroyed the engagement. She said, the ring has nothing to do with his mistake. Mistake. A mistake is forgetting an appointment. Michael had not made one mistake. So I said, maybe you should talk to Michael about making mistakes with family heirlooms. For the first time, her sweetness disappeared. Sarah, you don't want this to get ugly. I looked around my sister's guest room. It already is ugly, I said. Then I hung up. That was when I became the villain. Michael and I were supposed to get married in October at a vineyard-style venue outside Austin. We had 84 guests invited. My grandmother had already bought a lavender dress. My mother had helped with menu ideas. My father had quietly paid for more than he admitted because he knew I was trying not to drown in deposits. Michael used to say, stop stressing, babe. It's supposed to be fun. That sentence makes me angry now. Because I was the one emailing vendors during lunch breaks. I tracked payments. I confirmed guest counts. At the time, I thought he was supportive. Now I think he was absent in a charming way. The ring had been a huge part of the proposal. He proposed in Austin after dinner. Then he got down on one knee and for a few seconds, everything went silent. People clapped. I cried. He cried. Someone nearby filmed it and sent us the video. The ring was beautiful. A round center stone, yellow gold band, tiny stones along the sides. It wasn't huge or flashy. It looked warm and old, like something with history. His mother cried harder than anyone. Later that night, she held my hand and said, that ring has survived marriages, moves, hard years, and every kind of storm. I always knew it would go to the woman Michael chose. I remembered those words because they made me feel chosen. I didn't grow up with heirlooms. My family keeps memories in plastic bins, old photo albums, and saved birthday cards. So when she told me the ring belonged to Michael's great-grandmother, I believed her. I believed the tears. That was the part that hurt later. The feeling was real to me. It just wasn't real to them. I found out about the cheating on a Thursday afternoon. I was sitting in my car outside a bakery supplier, waiting to pick up boxes for wedding favors, when my phone lit up with a message request from a woman named Linda. The first sentence made my body go cold. Hi, Sarah. I'm sorry, but you need to know the truth about Michael. I stared at it for a long time before opening the rest. Some part of me already knew. Maybe because there had been signs. Late drives. Extra showers. His phone turned face down. A new passcode he claimed was for work privacy. The way he got irritated when I asked simple questions. But I had been so busy building the wedding that I didn't let myself inspect the cracks. Linda said she was a doctor at a hospital where Michael sometimes worked through his driving service. He drove medical staff, patients, and private clients. That was how they met. She said it started with conversation after he picked her up for a late shift. Then coffee. Then drinks. Then hotels. She said Michael told her our relationship was basically over. He said we were still engaged only because canceling the wedding would hurt both families. He said he was trying to handle it gently. Handle it. That was the word she used. She sent screenshots. Dates. Messages. A hotel confirmation. A picture of his watch on a nightstand that was not ours. One text from Michael said, I can't stay long tonight. Sarah has wedding stuff. Wedding stuff. That was me. My life. My work. My stupid little favor boxes sitting in the passenger seat while he used me as an excuse to leave another woman's bed. I sat in that parking lot so long someone knocked on my window and asked if I was okay. I said yes because apparently my mouth still knew how to lie even when my brain didn't. When I got home, Michael was in the kitchen making dinner like it was a normal night. The apartment smelled like garlic and onions. He looked over his shoulder and smiled. Hey, did you get the boxes? I put my phone on the counter. He looked at it, then at me, and I watched the truth hit his face before he said a word. I asked how long. He didn't ask what I meant. He didn't pretend to be confused. He just whispered, Sarah. I said, how long? He started crying before he answered. Full body sobbing. He sat at the kitchen table with his hands over his face and said he hated himself. He said it meant nothing. He said he loved me. He said he got scared. He said wedding planning made everything feel intense. He said Linda pursued him. Then he said she meant nothing. Every explanation contradicted the one before it. For a few minutes, I actually felt bad for him. I know how pathetic that sounds. But when you love someone for years, your body does not catch up to betrayal immediately. My brain had proof, but my heart was still looking at the man who brought me coffee when I opened the bakery early. The man who rubbed my back when I cried after a fight with my mom. He kept saying, I'll fix it. I'll quit. I'll go to therapy. I'll give you my phone. I'll do anything. I asked again, how long? He wiped his face and stared at the table. I said, Michael, if you lie right now, I will never speak to you again. He whispered, since May. The wedding was in October. Almost half our engagement had been fake. I stood there in our kitchen, looking at the man who had been sleeping beside me, planning vows with me, letting my parents spend money, letting my grandmother buy a dress, while he carried on a secret life. Something inside me went quiet. I said, the wedding is off. He looked up fast. No. Sarah, please. Don't make a decision like this tonight. I laughed, and it came out ugly. You made decisions for months. I get to make one tonight. He said, can we just breathe for a second? I said, you should have breathed before you cheated. Then I packed whatever my hands could grab and left for my sister's townhouse in San Antonio. He followed me to the door, crying. He kept saying my name like it could undo something. Sarah, please. Please don't go. I'll tell my mom. I'll tell everyone. Just don't end us like this. I turned around and said, you ended us. I'm just saying it out loud. The next morning, I woke up on my sister's guest bed with swollen eyes and a headache so deep it felt like grief had bones. She was in the kitchen making coffee. She didn't ask too many questions. She just hugged me and said, tell me what you need canceled first. That made me cry harder than anything Michael said. Because love is not always dramatic. Sometimes love is someone opening your laptop and sitting beside you while you cancel a florist. By noon, my phone was a disaster. Michael had called over and over. His mother had called twice. His sister sent, I know you're hurt, but don't do anything you'll regret. His cousin texted, whatever happened between you two, don't make it worse by being petty. I hadn't even spoken to him. Then his mother called again, and I answered. That was the ring call. After I hung up, the messages got worse. His sister posted something online about how some people show their real character when they don't get the wedding they wanted. His aunt texted that it was disgusting to punish an entire family over one bad decision. His cousin said keeping the ring was low class. His mother sent a long message about legacy, respect, and how she had treated me like a daughter. Like a daughter. That made my hands shake. Because when I was useful, I was family. When I smiled in engagement photos, I was family. When I let his mother invite extra relatives, I was family. When I answered questions about flowers and seating charts, I was family. But the second I stopped protecting their son's image, I became a thief. My mom wanted me to give the ring back. Not because she thought they deserved it. She just wanted them to stop harassing me. She said, honey, sometimes peace is worth more than being right. My dad disagreed, but carefully. He said, I'll support whatever you choose, but don't let angry people rush you. My sister was not careful at all. She said, if they cared that much about family treasures, maybe they should have raised Michael not to treat commitment like a rental agreement. I didn't even know if I wanted the ring. I wasn't wearing it. I couldn't look at it for more than a few seconds without feeling sick. It sat in its velvet box at the bottom of my bag, like a tiny gold bomb. I had no plan to sell it. No fantasy of wearing it around like a trophy. Part of me wanted to throw it into a lake and never see it again. But the more they demanded it, the less I wanted to return it. Because it stopped being about jewelry. It became about the story they were trying to force onto me. They wanted the story to be simple. Michael made a mistake. Sarah overreacted. Sarah kept the ring. Sarah hurt the family. Poor Michael. They wanted me to hand the ring back so they could close the loop neatly. No messy questions. No consequences. No proof that something ugly happened inside their perfect family. So I did nothing for a few days except cancel pieces of my wedding. I emailed the venue. I called the photographer. I contacted the flower vendor. I messaged guests with the shortest wording I could handle. The wedding has been canceled. Thank you for understanding. Some people responded kindly. Some asked questions. One distant cousin of Michael's sent a thumbs-up emoji, which I still think about because who does that? The worst call was with my grandmother. She asked if she should return the lavender dress. She tried to sound practical, but her voice broke at the end. I told her I was sorry. She said, "Don't apologize for someone else's shame." I wrote that down later. The venue chef was kind when I called about the catering cancellation. She said she couldn't refund everything, but she would do what she could. I thanked her like she had saved my life. By then, basic human decency felt like oxygen. Michael kept trying to reach me. His messages changed every few hours. First, he was sorry. Then he was scared. Then he loved me. Then he said I was letting anger control me. Then he said his mother was devastated about the ring and asked me to please not punish her. That was the message that made me finally respond. I wrote, "Your mother is devastated about a ring. My family is devastated about a wedding." Think about that. He didn't answer for almost an hour. Then he sent, "Can we talk in person?" I said no. That night, his mother sent another message. She said the ring had been promised to future generations and that I was holding on to something sacred out of spite. Sacred. I stared at that word for a long time. Maybe that was why I decided to get it appraised. I wish I could say it was some smart move, but it was mostly pettiness mixed with curiosity and the need for one solid fact in a week full of lies. If the ring was really a priceless family heirloom, fine. I wanted to know. I wanted paperwork. I wanted to understand what everyone was screaming about. My sister drove me to Dallas because she knew a small jewelry shop there through a friend. She said I shouldn't go alone, and she was right. I was still in that stage where I looked normal for 5 minutes and then suddenly felt like my chest was caving in. The shop was quiet, tucked between a framing store and a cafe. The woman who owned it had silver hair pulled back with a clip and paint on one sleeve. She designed jewelry, repaired old pieces, and did appraisals. Her voice was calm in a way that made me trust her instantly. I handed her the ring and said, "I was told this was an old family heirloom. I just need to know what it is." She didn't ask why. Maybe she already knew. Maybe women walking in with engagement rings and dead eyes are not rare. She examined it under a light. She checked the band, the setting, the stone. She asked if I had paperwork. I said no. She made a small sound, not dramatic, just thoughtful. Then she looked at me and said, "This is a pretty ring, but it's not old." I sat up straighter. "What do you mean?" "The setting looks fairly recent. Maybe 10 years old at most. The center stone is lab-grown. Good quality, but definitely not an antique diamond." I just stared at her. She continued gently, "There may be some older gold in the band, but the design, markings, and stone don't match the story of a generations-old heirloom." I said, "Are you sure?" She nodded. "I'm sure enough to tell you not to accept that story without documentation." My hands went cold. I had expected a number. I had expected maybe a value that made their panic make sense. I had not expected the entire story to collapse. My sister whispered, "Oh my God." I didn't cry. That surprised me. I had cried over everything for days. Wedding napkins. Toothpaste in my overnight bag. Toast, because Michael used to burn it and laugh about it. But standing in that jewelry shop, I felt something clean and sharp. Anger. Not screaming anger. Focused anger. The kind that wakes you up. I thanked the jeweler, paid for the written appraisal, and walked out with the ring back in its box. In the car, my sister asked, "What are you going to do?" I looked at the appraisal in my lap. For the first time all week, I knew exactly what to say. I texted Michael, "Your family heirloom ring is less than 10 years old and lab-grown." He called immediately. I didn't answer. He called again. Then his mother called. Then his sister. Then Michael texted Sarah, "Please call me before you say anything to my mom." That message told me everything. I waited 10 minutes. Let him panic. I'm not proud of that, but I'm also not sorry. Then I called him. He answered on the first ring. His voice sounded different. Not sad. Not apologetic. Terrified. "Why would you get it appraised?" he asked. That was the first thing he said. Not, "What do you mean?" Not, "That can't be right. Why would you get it appraised?" I said, "Because your family has been harassing me over it." He went quiet. I asked, "Does your mother know?" He said, "Please don't do this." Do what? Tell the truth. He exhaled hard. It's complicated. Everything was complicated when it made him look bad. I said, "Explain it." That was when he told me. The original ring had been real. There had been an heirloom once. His great-grandmother's ring. The one his mother cried about. The one that supposedly survived moves and marriages and storms. But years before Michael proposed, he sold it. He said it happened after a business idea failed. He had borrowed money, gotten in over his head, and panicked. He sold the ring because he thought he could buy it back before anyone noticed. He never did. His parents found out. Instead of telling the family, his mother helped him replace it with a similar-looking ring. She decided the story would stay the same because, according to Michael, it would break her heart if people knew. I said, so your mother knew this ring wasn't the heirloom? He said, it's still a real ring. I closed my eyes. You know what I mean. He said, she didn't want the family embarrassed. I asked, did you ever plan to tell me? He didn't answer. That silence removed the last tiny thread of doubt. He had let me wear a lie on my hand for a year. His mother had held my fingers and cried over a lie. His family had threatened me over a lie. They called me low class over a ring they knew was not what they claimed. I asked him, was any part of our engagement honest? He said, Sarah, I loved you. That wasn't my question. He started crying again, but this time it did nothing to me. I told him, if one more person in your family contacts me about this ring, I will send the appraisal, your messages, and the truth to every family group chat I was ever added to. He said, don't punish my mom. There it was again. His mother. His family. His shame. Never me. I said, I'm done protecting people who only protected lies. Then I hung up. The harassment stopped almost immediately. No more texts from his cousin. No more posts from his sister. No more speeches from his aunt about family values. His mother did not call me again. She sent one message 2 days later that said, I hope you can find it in your heart to handle this with grace. Grace. I didn't answer. My grace was not ruining them publicly. Michael sent a long email about a week later. He said he was ashamed. He said he had started therapy. He said he was sorry for the affair, sorry for the ring, sorry for letting his mother pressure me, sorry for not being the man I deserved. It was written beautifully, which somehow made it worse. Michael was always good with words when consequences finally arrived. He wrote that Linda meant nothing and that losing me made him realize how broken he was. I stared at that part for a long time. Because if Linda meant nothing, then he destroyed me for nothing. If she meant something, then he lied again. Either way, there was no version where I won. At the bottom, he wrote, my mom is grieving the ring situation too, and I hope someday there can be healing for everyone. I laughed so hard I cried. Not because it was funny. Because I could not believe I almost married into a family where my heartbreak and a fake heirloom were placed on the same emotional shelf. I moved out of the apartment 2 weeks later. Michael offered to leave instead, but I didn't want that place. It had too many ghosts. The kitchen where he cried. The bedroom where I packed. The bathroom where he probably texted her while I was in the next room folding wedding programs. My new apartment in Austin is small. The water pressure is terrible. One cabinet doesn't close unless you lift it first. The bedroom window faces a parking lot. But it is mine. No one else's shoes by the door. No one else's lies in the walls. My sister came over the weekend that was supposed to be my bridal shower. She brought cheap wine, grocery store cupcakes, and a notebook. We sat on the floor because I didn't have a couch yet, and she made me write a list called Things I'm No Longer Paying For. I wrote Michael's excuses. She wrote his mother's opinions. I wrote a wedding I planned mostly alone. She wrote emotional damage with a side of family drama. We laughed until I cried, then I cried for real, and she just sat there with me. She didn't try to fix it. She didn't tell me everything happens for a reason. She didn't say I dodged a bullet, even though I know I did. She just stayed. That is the kind of love I trust now. My parents came the next day. My mom cleaned my kitchen because that is what she does when she is worried. My dad fixed the cabinet without saying much. Before they left, he hugged me and said, you don't have to be okay fast. I needed to hear that. Because I'm not okay every day. Some mornings I wake up and forget for 3 seconds. I reach for my phone expecting a message from Michael, or I think of something stupid I need to tell him, and then it hits me. The wedding is gone. The future is gone. The person I thought I knew is gone. But the pain feels different now. At first, it was a wound. Open, messy, impossible to touch. Now it feels more like a bruise. Still there. Still tender. But healing whether I notice it or not. I still have the ring. I know that is the part people will fight about. I haven't sold it. I haven't worn it. I haven't mailed it back. It sits in the same velvet box in a drawer with the appraisal folded underneath it. Sometimes I think about sending it to his mother with a copy of the paperwork and a note that says, here's your legacy. Sometimes I think about selling it and using the money for a trip. Sometimes I think about keeping it forever as proof that I survived a family that cared more about image than honesty. I don't know what I'll do yet. But I know I'm not rushing because they told me to. For months, I let everyone else's comfort guide my choices. I let Michael avoid hard conversations. I let his mother push wedding decisions because I didn't want conflict. I let his family define loyalty, even when loyalty only moved in one direction. Not anymore. The hardest part was not only the cheating. It was realizing how quickly people rewrite you when you stop playing your assigned role. As the bride, I was sweet. I was family. I was the woman wearing the heirloom. I was proof that Michael was growing up. I was part of the picture. As the betrayed woman, I became difficult. Petty. Low class. Cruel. A thief. All because I didn't hand back the symbol fast enough for them to pretend nothing happened. Maybe someday I'll return the ring. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll sell it and donate the money. Maybe I'll drop it in a drawer and forget it exists until I can look at it without feeling sick. But right now, that ring is the only thing from that engagement that tells the truth. It was pretty. It was presented as sacred. It came with a story that made everyone feel important. And underneath all of that, it was not what they claimed. Just like Michael. So this is where I am now. Single, exhausted, living in an apartment with bad water pressure, rebuilding a life I didn't plan for. I lost the wedding, the man, the future I imagined, and the family I thought I was joining. But I kept my dignity. And for now, I kept the ring too. So am I wrong for refusing to return the engagement ring after my fiancé cheated, his family harassed me, and I found out they lied about what the ring really was?